Hi everybody, my guest today is Sam Pope. Sam is a singer, guitar player and actor who has appeared in such shows as All or Nothing, where he played Steve Marriott. He also appeared in the UK tour of American Idiot and was due to play one of the roles in the Bat Out of Hell tour just before it got postponed due to COVID. In the last 6 to 12 months, so things have gone pretty crazy for Sam, as due to his TikTok account, he has become quite famous performing sea shanties, no less. Here's what he had to say. Hi, Sam.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. That was the greatest. That was the greatest introduction of any of these videos ever. And if anyone is doubting why I enjoyed that so much, then they really need to watch more of your stuff.
They really do, and they need to watch more of this, all the Star Wars stuff that I've got on here.
I meant to say actually how much I'm loving all the Star Wars stuff you're doing as well.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. It came out of nowhere as well. Like it was just, I didn't, because I mean, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, I've been doing a bunch of TikToks and videos online, and I started doing them back in January, and they suddenly took off because of sea shanties, and I was doing a bunch of sea shanties, but I started every video just saying, hello there. And the amount of comments I got saying, like, you sound like Obi-Wan Kenobi from the prequels. And then the moment I started hearing it, I was like, oh yeah, I do a bit. Cool. I'm going to keep trying to make it sound like Obi-Wan Kenobi. So now that's just my thing now. It's great.
All the Obi-Wan Kenobi impressions that you've been doing as well. I watched one the other day that you did from the prequels, which was just loads of his lines. Oh my God, they were so spot on. It was unbelievable.
Well, the trick is having it up on YouTube in front of you and then listening to it and just repeating it straight after while it's fresh.
Oh my God, we've got so much to talk about. We're gonna come back to all of this, okay? But we're gonna start by going back, as I do, to the early years of Sam Pope. Listen, man, you're a super talented guy. You sing, you act, you play the guitar. So which one came first? When did it start?
Singing, I think, to be honest, and that was because my parents were very big on making sure that I tried pretty much everything, music-wise, sport-wise, everything when I was younger. So when I was about 7, maybe, and I was at my primary school, they enrolled me in choirs and things like that. So I sang with a bunch of different choirs and a few. One that was which later became my secondary school. So my secondary school had a cathedral. Not cathedral, sorry, it wasn't that big, but like a big old chapel. It wasn't its own city, you know. It was just a chapel. But they had they every Sunday they'd be singing hymns and all sorts. So I was a part of that, and that just got me singing. Had lessons all the way through that, and it wasn't until I became a teenager and got all angsty and was like, I don't want to sing choir anymore, I want to sing cool stuff, that I started changing my style a bit and trying to write in a more poppy, sing and write in a more poppy kind of vibe. But because that was when I then decided to pick up guitar.
Okay, so you picked up the guitar about that time as well. So around that time, when you got to the teenage years and you're very receptive at that point, who were your influences at that point? I
think my biggest influence was Jason Mraz.
Okay.
Jason Mraz, yeah. So he was I was pretty obsessed, to be honest, like with his style. Like a friend of mine kind of introduced me to him, and we ended up going to see him in a few really small gigs, one at the Cambridge Junction with about 120 people, and this was before Jason Mraz was really known in the UK at all. I think it was before he brought out I'm Yours, and yeah, I just got obsessed with him and like was trying to mimic his voice. And I think what really inspired me about him was that his vocals were always immaculate. He never dropped a note, no matter what, whether it's a live performance, didn't matter. Like he was so spot on. And the range he had, the ability to flip into falsetto and all this kind of stuff, it was just incredible. And I was desperate to try and imitate that as best as I could. So when I started playing guitar, and I started on electric, but I very quickly shifted to acoustic just in order to support myself singing and writing. And I was just spent hours and hours trying to copy his songs and trying to find that tone that he had. But I think if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have carried on with music in the way that I did, to be honest.
Nice.
I also ended up getting a tattoo that's the same one that he's got, that says rest area on my shoulder.
Okay. Nice. Wow.
I wanted to get one to kind of represent him, but it's just a tattoo that he happens to have. And I was like, oh, I like that. I'll take that. Why not?
Yes, man. Well, listen, man, we've all had those inspirations, you know what I mean? And so where did it go from there? Do you remember your first gig, and what was it? And were you in a band and stuff like that?
It's funny because I think technically first gig, not paid, but first gig playing was, I was at school, and I was probably about 12, and I just started playing guitar. And a bunch of my friends from that school decided we were going to form a band. There was some sort of talent show or something, so we decided we were going to form a band. And we did Red Hot Chili Peppers, and we did Californication.
Great song.
And I remember, I remember kind of rehearsing it and everything. And I'd only just started learning guitar, and a friend of mine who was playing lead guitar in that band had been playing it for about 3 months or 4 months, and I'd only been playing it for a few weeks. But I was sort of saying to him, "Hey, you can do the lead, but is it all right if I just like strum along with some chords or whatever?" Like, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool." Yeah. And I could tell that he was a little bit put out and being like, "I'm the guitarist. How dare you? Stick to singing. What do you think you are?"
What are you trying to say about us
guitarists? The worst part about that is that when we started playing, the moment I started playing my guitar, it was completely out of tune. And to this day, I'm convinced that he detuned it just before the gig. I'm convinced. Yeah, I know. I'm convinced. I can't, because he kept going, "Oh no, you put it by a radiator. I'm sure the heat probably warped it and put it really out of tune." I was like, at the time, I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sure that's right. Yeah, it wouldn't have been you, would it?" Anyway, we're no longer friends, so.
I can imagine he's gonna go, "Right, I'm going to tell you. Just going to move all your tunes out of tune." Oh my god. So when did what happened from there? How did you get where you are? Like to your first pro gig is what I'm trying to get at, I think.
Well, I started doing, as I went through secondary school, I kind of realized that performing and acting and singing, that was really the only thing I was better than people at. Do you know what I mean? It was the only thing that I could do that I was like, I'm confident that I can do this. So I ended up going to university, Manchester, and did a 3-year course there in drama. And then found myself doing more music than I did actual drama. Like, I made more friends in the music department. The music department and the drama department were in the same building. Okay. So we crossed paths a lot. And I just ended up making more friends that were musicians and singers than I did the actors. But I started doing pub gigs, playing guitar, and obviously with all the people there in and around Manchester. So I think one of the first ones would have been either a pub gig or at the very least some sort of student festival or something along those lines. I can't really remember the very first one. That's what's ridiculous. It was I mean, university, 3 years of drinking and
I was going to say it must have been a fun time.
So it was crazy, but yeah, it was. I mean, I think university is really where I decided that I was going to veer away from acting in terms of theatre acting and performing in plays and things like that. As much as I still enjoyed it, I just knew that singing and music was much more my my bag, my cup of tea. But
I mean, I would say having sort of stood with you for a long period, you are equally as brilliant at everything, both things.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? No, genuinely. Yeah, and again, we'll get onto that a bit, but one of your first big sort of main gigs was a musical called All or Nothing, which was based on The Small Faces, and you played Steve Marriott, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. So that was probably my first major role and major show.
So how did you get to that point? How did you what was the audition process like, etc.?
So that was first of all, I had an agent at that point. I'd had an agent for 2 or 3 years after leaving. So after university, very quickly, I went on and did a year's postgrad diploma at the Royal Academy of Music in musical theatre. So that was after my uni days. I was like, right, I need to get down the music route. And decided I was going to do some extra education in that. And off the back of that, managed to get an agent, audition for a bunch of shows. Didn't get too much in terms of theatre, but worked on a couple of cruise ships singing and in the cast on there. And then off the back of the second cruise ship, got an audition for All or Nothing. And it was, the rehearsal process was great. It was so much fun because it was one of those shows where the writer of the show, called Carol Harrison, she really had a very particular vision about recreating exactly how the Small Faces were. So she was very particular about who was playing each role, and look wise, and more importantly, energy wise. I think it was about finding people that really represented the energy of each character. So in our rehearsals, I did maybe 2 or 3 rounds initially, where you went in with a guitar, got asked to play some 60s stuff, so just did your own things, and then eventually got given some of the Small Faces songs, and they said, right, can you come back in the next day? And they had, I think the first 2 auditions were just me and, in the room playing in front of them. But then after that, they very quickly brought in other people that were going for the other band members and had us playing together in various combinations. Okay. So we had a whole round where I think I was involved in about 3 different combinations of the band. And it's funny because the guys that got the gig with me are now, to this day, still my best friends, which is amazing. Like, we're still really, really close. And when we think back to it, like, we were in different combinations, but I don't think it was until the very final audition that they ever decided to put us together. So it was on that day, I don't think we ever played as a group. It was always with someone else in a different role, which was crazy. But yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to point out a thing about this show for people that hadn't seen it or don't know about it. It was you guys, it was an actor Muso show. So you guys not only were playing the roles, but you were also playing all the instruments. It was a live performance from you guys musically as well.
That's right, yeah. And if anything, it was one of the more authentic actor Muso shows that I think I've heard of. I know that there's been a few that have gone on to West End and things like that, but there wasn't we toured for 18 months or so, and then did a couple of stints in the West End, one at the Arts Theatre and one at the Ambassadors, for a couple of months each. And through that whole time, they never click tracked us. They never kind of had any other backing music. It was always live, and it was always us playing it. And it was, obviously for myself, that meant playing electric guitar, playing the lead and singing. And we had a guy called Alex who was on the Hammond and the organs that they used to use. I had a guy called Stanton who was on the bass, and Stefan who played the drums. And it was incredible, because what I think was most shocking about it was that when we did our rehearsal process, once we got the gig, we did a week's worth of rehearsal just as the band. So we went to a Pirate Studios over in Earlsfield in kind of south West London, and had a week's worth of just playing the music and just learning the music. And from day one, we all had tremendous banter and so much fun with each other. And it was as if we'd been mates forever, which was crazy because we'd only just met. But I think that was really a testament to the casting, because they cast us as these characters, and we were all quite similar to the characters anyway. And the characters were best mates. Like, the actual Small Faces were all best mates. So it just seemed to work. It was great, but it made the whole process so much easier and so much more fun. When you're literally, it's like starting a band. It wasn't just a rehearsal process for a show. It was like we were a band, and we were, starting off at our first few gigs and things.
Did you not feel like double the pressure though, having to act your way through a show and having to play your way through a show as well? I mean, that's a little bit. That's a lot on all of your shoulders, all 4 of you, to be doing that every night.
A little bit, yeah. Definitely to start with, I think the pressure was there, particularly because for me, I'd done a few, as I said before, I did a few acoustic gigs and things like that, but I've not really played in a band before. But 2 of the others, Stanton and Stefan, the bass player and drummer, they'd never been in bands before, and they'd learnt their instruments when they were younger, but they hadn't been like keeping it up for a while. Like these were instruments that they put down for like 5 or 6 years. So to suddenly get thrown into the idea of being in a band, we did. I think our first gig that we did was, I think it was at the Half Moon in Putney, and it was like a kind of little teaser for the show, and it was, they invited a bunch of the hardcore fans from the previous tours that they'd done, and it was great. But it was such a small venue, but it was really, really intimate and lovely. But the moment we got on stage, like, we did everything about twice the speed that it was meant to be, because of nerves, obviously. But again, it just sort of gelled. I think, like, the fact that we all just got on, and we all just had this pact that we're going to get up there, and if we mess it up, like, if forget a lyric, I'm just going to go, no, in the same way that Marriott would have done. It's like, that's rubbish, just start it again, and then just start the song again, and not worry about it. Do you know what I mean? Not be like, oh God, I'm so sorry, but just like not be apologetic and just, almost go balls deep into the characters. And it worked because it just made us so much more relaxed that we didn't feel like there was a pressure on us because we were being these other people. So they were judging them and not us.
Yeah, but, I mean, it sounds like for you in particular, I think, not that I ever saw you in it, but I can imagine how brilliant you were playing Steve Marriott. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you.
And again, because I've heard you sing a lot, I can just imagine. So 18 months that ran for, you say? So around the UK and a bit in town as well.
That's right.
And then, so when that all wrapped up, your next gig was American Idiot, I guess, was it?
That's right. Yeah, pretty much. I did a pantomime in December, and then went straight on to American Idiot, which was
that's where we first met. So just to fill people in, I remember meeting you. We were in Dunstable at the Grove. The band call was in one of the upstairs rooms, and we'd been sort of rehearsing all day. And I remember Rob saying, "Yeah, Sam's going to come along a bit," and I wasn't quite sure what that meant, because I didn't realize that your character in the show was at certain points was to play with the band, and little did I know that we'd be up on stage with you on the mezzanine, and it would all be very much part of that. But I remember you turning up and you had your guitar and you would sort of, we're playing, then you get up, and then I think we did Holiday or something like that for the first song with you, and you were just rocking out. I was like, this guy's got it all, you know what I mean? And then like seeing you in the actual show. So tell me about the whole thing from your perspective of American Idiot.
Well, it was such a change of pace from All or Nothing, because as much as All or Nothing was a rock show, and it was a 60s rock show, it was a biopic as well. It was about the band, and it was, so it had some really epic music, and it was, lights and shade and everything. But American Idiot is just it's just go from the minute you start the show. There's no respite. It's just kind of hard hitting rock all the time. And also it was probably the next step towards being, I hate to say it, but like more of a traditional musical in terms of the amount of choreography, the fact that it's kind of non-stop and there's not a huge amount of dialogue. It's mainly music. Like that sort of change in pace was really interesting for me, because obviously I was used to doing it where it's basically a play with some music, whereas this was a musical. It was full on, but it was just so much fun. I've been a big Green Day fan since I was a teenager anyway, so I kind of knew all the music and have always loved the music. So that was a big help, to just already be so familiar with everything.
And to paint a picture of your character, his name was it Will, your character's name?
Will, yeah, that's right.
He was just a proper old school kind of stoner, never wanted to do anything with his life kind of thing. And, literally had, your sort of flat was the bit on the mezzanine up where we were. And, you got the sofa, your guitar hanging on the wall, which you'd come up and you'd pick up, and then you'd start playing some of the songs with us. Yeah. Man, it was just again brilliant, surely, for you to be doing something like that at that point. Absolutely. Well, it was another step along the actor Muso route, and for me that's the perfect combination of everything that I love doing. It's being able to perform and put on a character, sing and play the instruments that I've spent all these years learning. Like that's I couldn't really ask for more from a show. And it was just and again it was so much fun. I mean, it was one of those characters where didn't have to stretch too far, being a little bit of a lazy drunk on a sofa. That was it wasn't so much acting really as just chilling. It's weird because when we finished in each town, like you'd still be on the sofa. We'd be like, come on, we've got to go. You'd be like, no, I'm good here. Didn't have to worry about transport to each venue. I just slept on the truck in the sofa. It was great. But it was so much fun. And I was really, really pleased that because I know when I accepted the job, I'd sort of been hinted that I would get to play the guitar and I'd get to do that kind of stuff, but I didn't really know how much, and I didn't know how and where I'd be doing that. So when it came out to seeing the set and seeing, as you said, that we had the set and then the mezzanine, and that you guys were up here, and then I had my own little section, but I could just literally walk across and effectively join the band for however many numbers in the show. That was the greatest thing for us as well, because it would just change it up. How many songs was it that you played on in the show? I don't know. It's probably 4. Maybe because there were a couple when I played over near the
the sofa as well. So it might have even been 6 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, without just going through them all, I can't remember. But I definitely played on, I think, about maybe 3 of the first 5, I think.
Yeah.
And then a few later on. Because then there were a couple as well, weren't there, when we played acoustic, where the 3 leads played acoustic down on the stage.
Of course,
for Wake Me Up When September Ends. And obviously the encore, the end of the show, when everyone was either playing or pretending to play guitar.
Pretending to play, yeah. But everyone had guitars. That's the main thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Great, man. Yeah, it was obviously I've had Tom on here. I've had Sam Lavery on here as well. And we've sort of been
brilliant
about our memories of the show, particularly that last matinee that we did, you know, and everything that was going wrong and all the fun that went with it. Yeah, man.
The one thing I remember from that matinee was Nick being obviously he was stood in between you and me on the mezzanine, and there was a running gag that we used to have all these running gags where we'd play rock paper scissors in the middle of a song. There was a bit where there was a guitar solo and he'd drop out for 8 bars or 4 bars or something, and we just play rock paper scissors during the song. So we kept doing that, but then there was a bit where I can't remember when it was in the song, but towards the end of the show, where he just lifted up his shirt and he'd written "I got Heather pregnant" written on his body. Heather being my girlfriend in the show, as in like the character girlfriend who gets pregnant, and he was like, "I got Heather pregnant," and it was just, but I obviously didn't know what was happening, so it was like reacting, going, "Oh, what? No, how dare you!"
So
but it was so good. There was just so many little.
You mentioned Siobhan, actually, who played your girlfriend in the show. How absolutely brilliant she is as well.
Oh, she's just phenomenal.
So after American Idiot, so we've got to talk about Bat Out of Hell, because this story takes a bit of a twist, doesn't it, with everything that's
unfortunately
going on there. But tell me, you were all lined up to do the UK tour of Bat Out of Hell. So tell us about that.
That's right. Yeah. So this time, January last year, everything had been cast. It was all set. We were going to start rehearsals. I think in March. We started rehearsals, and we did 2 weeks of really intensive rehearsals. Got the show down. Everyone was stressed out because obviously 2 weeks is not a long time to learn an entire show. But then by the time we got to the end of 2 weeks, was obviously everything with COVID was kicking off, and we were about 3 or 4 days away from flying out to the US and starting our tour in New Jersey. And obviously everything shut down and everything went. And it was really surreal, because we were in this bubble, the cast bubble, as everyone talks about, where, you're not really investing in anything else going on because you're focusing too much on learning your lines and, getting to know your castmates and everything. And we got to the last few days and we were still rehearsing in London, but we were walking whenever you walked to the rehearsal venue, London was just empty, and it was crazy. We're talking like Friday nights or Friday during the day, or whatever, and there was just no one about, because obviously everyone was starting to prepare themselves for the fact that this COVID was going to be a thing. And it was devastating, really, because we were so close to going. And we're not the only ones, and there were so many shows that
no, that's right,
that lost out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really bring the whole COVID thing up on here because it's a nice place for people, to sort of get away with. But with you now, there's a couple of things that are very relevant. The first of being Bat Out of Hell. So you were supposed to go to America first. That's right, yeah. So we were going to do New Jersey, I think, and I think we're going down towards Florida and Miami. Okay. We did a few venues over there. So I think we were going to do 3 weeks over there. Come back, have a couple of weeks off. Then we were going to do an arena tour in Australia, which would have been insane. So we were going to be in 10,000 seater venues and all sorts. So crazy stuff. And then come back and then start a UK tour. Well, that was a big deal. The good thing about it is the UK thing. Well, yes, it was literally an international thing, and they were talking about other countries we were going to go to at some point, going to New Zealand and potentially Asia, all sorts of places. But the positive thing is that despite everything, the company and the producer Julian, who's been involved with the show for a long time, they're lovely people, and they're so invested in getting the show back up and running that I have all the confidence that at some point it will go back out again. Do you know what I mean? It's not one of those where they go, "Oh, never mind. Oh well, on to the next thing." No, they are so invested. Not with that one, man. I mean, not only you, but there was a couple of other guys from Idiot got on there as well, because Glenn got the lead
Right.
as well, didn't he? And you were, what was your role? Because wasn't it covering him on a couple of
Yeah,
shows?
so I was playing. Well, Glenn was playing Strat, who's the lead role. Excuse me, and I was the alternate for him. Right. So I was going to be covering him, but also alternating. So because it's such an intense sing. Obviously, it's Meatloaf and it's high, and it's and the show is such high energy. Like, they didn't expect people to be able to do 7 or 8 shows a week.
So the other thing we need to talk about on mention the COVID thing is because with having had that huge gig taken away from you temporarily, at least, something else kind of happened in your life.
Yeah.
You need to tell us and explain now, what is a sea shanty?
Well, a sea shanty is my new favorite thing because of COVID. But it was basically back in November or getting into December. And I just joined TikTok, which was never an app that I thought I was going to join, to be honest. I think there was a lot of stigma around it. People assumed, myself included, it was quite a youthful app and meant for people doing silly dances and little comedy skits and stuff. I didn't really see it as something for music, really.
Okay.
But I joined it nonetheless and just started playing around, fell in love with it, and fell in love with the ability to collaborate with people on the app. They have a duet feature where someone will post a video and then you can do your own video that's alongside it and just, add whatever you want to add to it, whether it's just, something funny or just a harmony or an instrument or whatever. And I just loved that feature and I was using it all the time. And then suddenly, people started playing sea shanties or singing sea shanties, usually a cappella, and just use it and just thumping on a table or a kick drum or something. And I thought, I'm going to give that a go. Why not? A few other people are doing it; they're doing quite well with it. So I recorded a couple, and I recorded one. Romy Bully Boys was the first one I recorded, which is from the Robin Hood film. Or it was written for it by Alan Doyle. Okay. And she goes, and we roll me bully boys, we're in a hurry boys, we got a long way to go. It's just this long, it's a beautiful song.
Okay.
And so I thought I'd do a version of that, but I'd also seen this feature on TikTok where you could create duets so that other people can sing, to encourage people to sing along with you. So you write the lyrics on the screen, color code them so they know what they get to sing, leave gaps so that people can do little verses themselves and things like that. So I did a few of those. And my account at that point had, I think, about 17 or 18,000 followers, which was still phenomenal for me. I was like, I'm well happy with that. And then I have no idea why, other than it just became a trend. But those videos started getting millions of views and and hundreds of thousands of likes and comments, and my followers went from about, I think, 17,000. I think I'm just about approaching 700,000 now, and that was 2 months ago or whatever. So it's just mind-boggling how it works. And most of those, the first 500,000 or whatever, just came in January. So it was just 4 weeks worth of this, and it's just become. I mean, it's slightly dying down now, but nonetheless, the last 2 months have just been nothing but sea shanties on there, and it's just people doing their own, finding these really fun obscure shanties and and putting them on TikTok and people duetting them. The most famous one that people would have heard of is the Weller Man, which is the one that's really taken the world by storm. There was a guy called Nathan Evans who did a version of that, and his video did pretty well. It wasn't like astronomical, but it was pretty good. And then what happened was a bunch of people started duetting it, so there became this long chain of videos of people adding bass lines and tenor lines, whatever, and it just created this massive wall of sound, and it was amazing, and it just completely took off and got millions and millions and millions of views. And Nathan's now got his a single out for it, and an EDM remix of it, and he's been on all sorts of TV shows, he's doing a tour, all sorts of things like that. But it was just, I just couldn't believe it. I just had no
craziest thing.
There's nothing that could have prepared me for sea shanties becoming a thing ever. Let alone at a time like this. It's crazy.
No, of course, but great for you that it's really sort of filled the time on
Absolutely.
been feeling a bit low about, missing out on that, on Bat Out of Hell not happening and every the other crap that's happening. It's really surely giving you something to focus on. But also I got to say, Sam, that I'm sure there is a lot of shit on TikTok, you know what I mean? And the reason you've done so well is because you're so bloody brilliant at it. And I
Thanks, mate.
genuinely mean that. And it's not just the fact that you're so good at doing that. It's all the other stuff that goes with it, like we were saying about the Obi-Wan Kenobi impressions. And I was watching one on your Instagram that it was someone was stomping bubble wrap, and you were singing in time, and then it stops, and you're like, oh, that's it. And oh my God, I burst out laughing because it was just so brilliant. What was the band that was there something you did of a band and they posted it?
Yes, so I did All Time Low. It was the band,
that was it.
And I did Dear Maria. That's what it's called.
Okay,
and I actually, weirdly enough, I was approached by a marketing team that worked with the band in the UK, and they emailed me because of the sea shanties I've been doing and said, do you think you could turn this song into a sea shanty and do a version of that? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So then went away and, took the lyrics and rewrote the melody and, gave it a kind of slightly more sea shanty vibe with the kick drum and everything. And yeah, that was, I've had quite a few of those come in now, that sort of commission work where people are trying to cash in on the whole sea shanty vibe. Which rightly so, why not? Absolutely. It's not going to be here forever. But
this is how crazy it's got there, right? So a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting with Mel and the kids, and we're watching Saturday Night Takeaway with them, and they talk about, they're going to do the sea shanty thing at the end. And I said, because I've not been on Instagram that long, I've only started since I've been doing all this, and because of being on there, I saw the stuff that you were doing. So I said to them, oh, Sam from American Idiot, he's like doing all these sea shanty things now. And he's like, it's all going crazy for him now. Like, oh, really cool. So we're watching it. It gets to the end of the show. And who turns up on the screen in the background? It's you.
Crazy. Yeah.
Really is.
And that was the work of about 3 days. I think we got told that on Thursday. Actually, because weirdly enough, so from the back of the Wellerman song, which actually was a trend, that song, I wasn't involved with that. I didn't duet it. I wasn't involved with that. But the people that were reached out to me and basically said, do you want to sing the lead on our version of Wellerman that we're going to put out with a bunch of bass singers? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. It'd be great. So we created this group called the Weller Men, and have released a version of Wellerman. And we're currently working on an album of other shanties and other songs. Not all shanties, some just folk songs. Some are kind of from TV shows. Got 16 Tons, which is a great song, but it's a bit more, slightly more jazzy. But we got signed by a record label for that. So that record label were the ones who were approached by Anton Deck, and apparently Deck is a fan of the Wellermen. So he approached our label and said, can we get them on the show towards the end and just to film something? And so in a couple of days, we all filmed our own little version of their song, and it was crazy. It was really crazy. I wasn't, again, something you just can't predict. Do you know what I mean? That 3 days after getting a call, you're going to be appearing on Saturday Night TV.
Can't make it up, can you? But no. You know what, man? I'm so glad that there's not many musos and actors I know at the minute who things are working out for them. But you, certainly that's the thing. Even if it's something just to see you through all of this, That's it. Do you know what I mean? And actually, I've been telling myself, since I started TikTok, I thought I'm going to treat this little app like a game, and I'm just going to see how many followers I can get during lockdown, because I know that when everything goes back to normal. At the time I was like, I'll pack it in then, I'll see how many followers I get, and then I'll just leave it alone and go and work in the real world like I did before. Not expecting to get anywhere near the kind of following I have now. So I now feel like I can't. So now this is my life now, is making TikToks, making little 15-second videos, stomping and
on
I've
bubble
got to
wrap.
say, I even joined in on one of these. There was a really nice a cappella thing that you put on Instagram. Tale of Witches 3, I think it was called.
Oh yes, you did. You're right.
Yeah. And so I thought I've got to do something. So I was watching it. I thought, wonder if he sung that in tune to a certain key. So I knocked up a little rock track, and you can check it out on the Instagram there. But it actually came out fun, didn't it?
It did. Sounds great. To the point where we now need to make it a bigger track.
Yes, that's what we said about, wasn't it?
It was so good.
Yeah, man.
But but this is again, that's just what I love about what I think during lockdown, and during the last year, everyone's obviously had to deal with a lot, and varying amounts, like personal lives and everything. But the one thing that everyone's been missing, like universally, is just this sense of connection with people. We're all very social beings, and I think regardless of what your situation is, everyone misses social interaction to some degree. And I think what this trend and what apps like TikTok have been able to do for people is give people that ability to connect with each other. And I think that's the biggest draw that I've seen from these sorts of videos. And it's why I love making them, because you make a video and it gets X amount of likes or whatever, but then you can on TikTok click on the bottom right and there's a little spinning record disc that has the sound. You click on the sound and it will come up with a list of all the people that have duetted the video. So that either that they've just duetted it to say, oh, I love this, and they're just jamming along with it, or they're adding a harmony or an instrument or anything. And it's incredible because you just get to see, you click on the sound and you see hundreds of people have duetted this one video, and you go, that's amazing. Do you know what I mean? That's something that for me I've definitely been missing, is that connection. But the fact that you can put something out there and then other people can duet and then duet with each other, and it just becomes this huge tree of people vibing off this same little bit of content.
And that's why it's done so well, I'm sure, because people just crying out for creativity from a social aspect, and which is, maybe social media is actually being social for once. Who knows?
Oh yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely feel like TikTok is, for me at least, a much more positive place than other social medias can be. But it's been, as you say, it's been something that has kept me busy, kept my brain ticking over, and just kept my head, my head in the game, as it were. You know what I mean? Keeping yourself fresh and everything. But it's been great fun.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to mention?
Oh, I don't know. Other than go check out my stuff on Sam Pope Music. That's my handle, Sam Pope Music, on all channels. Also go check out the Weller Men as well. The Weller Men, that's the group. We're working on an album, so we're going to bring that out in the following months. We're working on it. We're starting recording at the moment. So
great. You've got to keep those Obi-Wan impressions coming, man, because they're so
absolutely. I've been bought. I've literally got it right next to me here, but I had a couple of supporters donated money to buy me an Obi-Wan Kenobi costume, so I've now got the cosplay full-on thing, which I've used in one video so far, but I want to use it in more. And I've got my lightsaber here. Got my parents got me this for my birthday, which is amazing. So I've got
nice, man.
So good.
I could lend you some stuff. I've got Darth Vader and Kylo Ren just here. And there.
Yes.
I got Boba Fett over there, but you can't see him, and loads of other stuff up in the house. So.
Amazing. I figured I might start a series of because I also got bought an Obi-Wan Kenobi dressing gown, so I thought I might start a series of Obi-Wan Kenobi in stuck at home, like in lockdown or whatever, and just doing him in pants, a vest, and a dressing gown. I mean,
I'm pretty sure that's what the Disney Plus show on him is going to be about, just but you should do it.
Just do it from home, just making toast with his lightsaber and all sorts, all that kind of stuff.
Sam Pope, thank you so much.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks,
it's been an absolute pleasure.